It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult. Seneca. Have you ever felt like something big is about to shift? Stoic philosophy teaches us to embrace change with wisdom and resilience. Here are 5 signs that transformation is near, and how to meet them with a Stoic mindset. 1. When everything feels uncertain. Uncertainty is one of the most difficult experiences to navigate. It can leave you feeling ungrounded, anxious, and even paralyzed by fear. But what if uncertainty wasn't something to dread? What if, instead, it was a sign that life was shifting in a way that could ultimately serve you? The Stoics understood that uncertainty is an inevitable part of life. No matter how much we plan or how carefully we try to control our circumstances, change is always around the corner. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is a powerful reminder that while we may not be able to predict or prevent life's twists and turns, we always have control over how we respond to them. When everything feels uncertain, it's easy to fall into a spiral of overthinking. You might try to analyze every possible outcome, hoping to find a sense of security in knowing what's ahead. But ironically, the more you try to control the unknown, the more overwhelmed you feel. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes invaluable. Instead of resisting uncertainty, we must learn to accept it as a fundamental part of life. The world will always be in flux, but our ability to adapt and move forward despite uncertainty is what defines our strength. One of the best ways to navigate uncertain times is to focus on what is within your control: your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. If you're facing a major life transition, whether it's graduating and stepping into the unknown, losing a job, or the end of a relationship, you may feel like the ground beneath you has disappeared. It's natural to panic when the familiar disappears, but it's important to recognize that uncertainty often signals a new beginning. Think about the times in your life when you were forced into change. Maybe you lost a job you once depended on, only to later realize it pushed you toward a better opportunity. Maybe you went through a breakup that shattered you in the moment, but in hindsight, you can see how it helped you grow, reflect, and ultimately find something better suited to you. These experiences prove that uncertainty isn't just chaos, it's the space where transformation happens. The key is to take action, even when you don't have all the answers. Many people believe that clarity must come first, that they need to figure everything out before they can move forward. But in reality, clarity often follows action. By making a choice, any choice, you gain momentum, and that momentum leads you toward the next step. If you're feeling lost, take one small action in the direction you want to go. Send out a job application, start a new project, reach out to someone for advice. These small steps create movement, and movement breaks the paralysis of uncertainty. So the next time you find yourself in a place of doubt, remember, uncertainty isn't your enemy. It's an indication that life is shifting, evolving, and making space for something new. You don't need to have all the answers right now. What matters is that you focus on what you can control, accept what you cannot, and keep moving forward. Because often, the most unexpected changes lead to the most profound transformations. 2. When you face unexpected loss. Loss is one of the most difficult experiences we go through as human beings. It comes in many forms: a job that provided security and identity, a relationship that brought love and companionship, an opportunity that seemed like the perfect path forward. When something we value is suddenly taken away, the initial reaction is often grief, confusion, and even a sense of injustice. We ask ourselves, why did this happen? What could I have done differently? But Stoic philosophy teaches us to approach loss with a different mindset, one that does not resist the inevitable nature of change, but instead embraces it as a part of life. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." This quote reminds us that much of our suffering comes not from the event itself, but from our anticipation of it, or our refusal to accept it once it has occurred. We torment ourselves by replaying the past, wishing things had gone differently, or fearing an uncertain future. But the truth is, loss is not an anomaly. It is a fundamental aspect of existence. Nothing we have is truly ours forever. Everything we experience, every person we love, every achievement we attain is, in a sense, borrowed. When we lose something or someone, our natural instinct is to focus on the absence, the void that is left behind. This can be deeply painful, and Stoicism does not suggest that we should suppress our emotions or pretend we're unaffected. However, it does encourage us to shift our perspective. Instead of dwelling solely on what is gone, we should remind ourselves of what remains. What have we gained from this experience? What lessons did this job, relationship, or opportunity teach us? What strengths have we developed in the process? Accepting impermanence is one of the most powerful Stoic practices. Marcus Aurelius frequently meditated on the transient nature of life, writing in his Meditations that everything we cherish is temporary and subject to change. This perspective is not meant to make us indifferent or cynical, but rather to prepare us to handle loss with greater resilience. When we recognize that everything in life is fleeting, we begin to appreciate it more fully in the present, and we become less devastated when it eventually passes. Many people who have faced loss later come to see it as a turning point, something that, while painful at the time, ultimately led them to a better path. Think about moments in your own life where you lost something you deeply valued. Perhaps a job you were passionate about suddenly ended, leaving you feeling lost and uncertain. But in time, you may have discovered new opportunities that would have never been possible had you remained in the same position. Maybe a relationship ended, and though it was heartbreaking, it forced you to grow, to learn more about yourself, and ultimately to find a new sense of independence or even a better relationship in the future. Loss, when viewed through the lens of Stoicism, is not just an ending, it is a redirection. It is life's way of pushing us toward new experiences, new growth, and often a better version of ourselves. The pain of loss is real, but it does not have to define us. We have the power to choose how we respond, and in that response lies our strength. 3. When an opportunity scares you. Fear often means you're on the edge of something meaningful. It's an emotional signal that you are stepping into unknown territory, a space where growth and transformation occur. When an opportunity presents itself, whether it's a new job, a chance to move to a different place, or an invitation to try something unfamiliar, fear can arise, making you question whether you are capable or ready. This reaction is natural. The human mind is wired to seek familiarity and avoid risk. The comfort zone feels safe because it is predictable. But the Stoics remind us that the comfort zone is also a place of stagnation. If we want to grow, we must embrace discomfort. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, taught that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This means that the very thing causing you fear, the challenge, the unknown, the risk, is often the exact thing you must confront to move forward in life. When faced with an opportunity that intimidates you, it's important to recognize that fear itself is not a sign to retreat. Instead, it is a signal that you are at the threshold of personal expansion. Rather than running from this discomfort, lean into it. Ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? Can I handle it? More often than not, the worst-case scenario is far less catastrophic than we imagine. Even if you fail, you will gain experience, insight, and resilience, things that ultimately serve your long-term growth. Consider a real-life scenario. You have been offered a promotion at work, but it comes with new responsibilities that feel overwhelming. Your initial reaction might be to doubt yourself. What if I'm not good enough? What if I make mistakes? What if I can't handle the pressure? These thoughts create a loop of hesitation that could lead to rejecting the opportunity. However, a Stoic approach would be to examine these fears rationally. What if, instead, you ask, what skills do I already have that will help me succeed? How can I prepare myself for the challenges ahead? What is truly stopping me from taking this step? The reality is that fear often magnifies the difficulty of a situation in our minds. The Stoics teach us that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." In other words, much of what we fear is simply a mental projection rather than an inevitable outcome. When we shift our focus from avoidance to preparation, we begin to see fear not as an obstacle, but as a guide. Another example is moving to a new city. The thought of leaving behind familiar surroundings, friends, and routines can be daunting. You might fear loneliness, difficulty in adjusting, or regret over leaving what you know. But if you were to take a Stoic approach, you would remind yourself that every great transition in life comes with uncertainty. The only way to know if it's the right move is to take the step and embrace the experience. Even if challenges arise, you will adapt. The key to navigating fear is action. The longer you dwell in hesitation, the stronger fear becomes. But the moment you take a step forward, however small, you begin to reclaim your power over the situation. Growth does not happen in comfort, it happens in challenge. Each time you choose courage over fear, you reinforce the mindset that you are capable of handling change. Ultimately, opportunities that scare you are often the ones that shape you the most. The Stoics remind us that fortune favors the bold, not because risk guarantees success, but because facing fear strengthens the mind. When an opportunity arises and fear whispers doubt, recognize it for what it is, a sign that you are standing at the edge of growth. Your only task is to step forward. 4. When you feel discontent with the familiar. There comes a time in life when everything feels stagnant. Your job, your relationships, your daily routine. The things that once excited you now seem dull, and you find yourself questioning whether this is all there is. This feeling of discontent, though often uncomfortable, is not something to suppress or ignore. Instead, it is a signal, a sign that you are outgrowing your current circumstances and that change is not only necessary but inevitable. Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." This simple yet profound statement reminds us that discomfort with the familiar is not a sign of failure or ingratitude. It is the first step towards something new. Just as a snake sheds its skin when it becomes too tight, we too must shed old routines, outdated mindsets, and limiting environments in order to grow. A Stoic approach to this stage of life begins with acceptance. Rather than resisting feelings of restlessness or guilt-tripping yourself for wanting something different, recognize that this is a natural part of the human experience. Everything in life is in flux, and change is the only constant. When you begin to feel uneasy in your current situation, it is not a flaw, it is an invitation. The next step is introspection. Instead of blindly rushing into change for the sake of it, take a moment to sit with your feelings. Ask yourself, what is this discontent trying to teach me? Is it boredom signaling that you are not being challenged enough? Is it frustration indicating that your values are no longer aligned with your current path? Is it a sense of emptiness pointing to a lack of deeper meaning in what you do? The more you reflect, the clearer your direction will become. Once you understand the root of your discontent, begin making small but intentional changes. If your job feels unfulfilling, start exploring new skills or industries that intrigue you. Read books that challenge your thinking. Engage in conversations with people outside your usual circle, or seek mentors who embody the qualities you admire. If your social circle feels uninspiring, put yourself in environments where you can meet new people who align with your evolving interests. It is often through these small shifts that the bigger opportunities for transformation arise. There is also a crucial aspect of Stoicism that applies here, the willingness to let go. Many people remain stuck in uninspiring situations simply because they fear leaving behind what is familiar. A job that pays well but drains your spirit. A relationship that is comfortable but no longer fulfilling. A way of thinking that feels safe but is preventing growth. The Stoics teach us that attachment to the past is often what hinders progress. Epictetus reminds us, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? If you are feeling discontent, it is because you are being called to demand more challenge, more meaning, more alignment with who you are becoming. Think back to times in your life when you experienced this feeling before. Maybe it was when you graduated from school and suddenly felt lost. Maybe it was when you realized a friendship was no longer serving you, or when a passion you once had began to fade. Each time you likely resisted the change at first, but eventually you moved forward, and in doing so, you found something new. something better suited to who you were at that moment. Discontent is not a curse. It is an awakening. When life begins to feel too small for you, it is because you are ready for expansion. The only question is, will you resist it, or will you embrace it? 5. When you're forced to start over. Starting over can be one of the most difficult and disorienting experiences in life. It often comes with feelings of loss, uncertainty, and even failure. When everything familiar falls away, whether it's a career, a relationship, a way of life, it can feel as if the ground beneath you has vanished, leaving you in freefall. But from a Stoic perspective, starting over is not a punishment, nor is it something to be feared. It is an opportunity, a moment to rebuild with greater wisdom, clarity, and strength. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. In other words, the circumstances that led you to this moment, whether they were within your control or not, are far less important than the mindset with which you approach what comes next. The past is unchangeable, but the present moment offers a choice to dwell on what has been lost or to take control of what remains and begin anew with intention. The first step in embracing a fresh start is to reframe the way you see it. Instead of viewing it as evidence of failure or misfortune, recognize that it is a chance to redefine your path. It is not a step backward. It is a blank slate, a rare moment where you can set aside everything that no longer serves you and rebuild from a place of deeper understanding. Many people spend years trapped in circumstances they have outgrown simply because they fear change. If you have been forced to start over, consider that perhaps life has removed what you were unwilling to let go of yourself. Resistance to starting over often comes from attachment. Attachment to past successes, to a sense of identity, to expectations of how things should have been. The Stoics teach us that clinging to what is no longer within our control only leads to suffering. The more we resist reality, the more we prolong our own pain. Acceptance, on the other hand, allows us to move forward. This does not mean that loss should not be acknowledged or grieved, but rather that we should not allow ourselves to be defined by it. Rebuilding after loss requires purpose. It is not simply about filling the empty spaces left behind, but about constructing something better, something more aligned with who you are now. Every setback, every hardship, every forced reset brings with it a lesson about resilience, about what truly matters, about your own strength. Instead of focusing on what has been taken from you, ask yourself, what have I gained? What insights do I now carry that I did not have before? What opportunities exist now that were not available in my previous circumstances? It is easy to romanticize stability, to believe that once we find a place of comfort, we should remain there forever. But life is in constant motion, and the ability to adapt is one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. When you are forced to start over, you are given the opportunity to practice this adaptability, to prove to yourself that you are not defined by external circumstances, but by the way you rise to meet them. Perhaps the greatest truth that Stoicism offers in moments of upheaval is this: you have survived every difficult moment in your life up until now, and you will survive this too. The past does not dictate the future. The fact that something has ended does not mean that what comes next will be worse. It may, in fact, be far greater than anything you have known before. The only way to find out is to move forward with courage, embracing the unknown not as something to fear, but as something full of possibility. Change isn't something to fear. It's a natural, unavoidable part of life. No matter how much we try to hold on to stability, the reality is that everything is in a constant state of motion. The Stoics understood this deeply and embraced it rather than resisted it. They taught that while we may not have control over external events, we always have control over our response. This distinction is what separates those who suffer needlessly from those who rise above challenges with strength and clarity. If you're experiencing one of these signs right now, whether it's uncertainty about the future, the loss of something meaningful, the fear of stepping into something new, the restlessness that comes with stagnation, or the need to start over, know that this moment is shaping you. It's refining your character, testing your resilience, and giving you an opportunity to grow in ways you may not yet understand. What feels like an ending could very well be the beginning of something transformative. Every great thinker, leader, and philosopher throughout history has faced moments of doubt and change. Marcus Aurelius ruled during a time of war and plague, yet he maintained his composure and focus by reminding himself that change is part of the natural order. Seneca, who faced exile and ultimately a forced suicide, still found peace in the belief that hardship is not a punishment, but a teacher. Epictetus, who was born a slave, refused to let his circumstances define him, and instead built a legacy of wisdom that continues to influence minds today. Your situation, no matter how difficult, holds the potential to make you stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the next chapter of your life. Instead of resisting change, lean into it. See it as a chance to practice patience, courage, and adaptability. The discomfort you feel now will pass, but the lessons you take from it can serve you for a lifetime. Which of these signs are you experiencing right now? Are you standing at the edge of something new, feeling uncertain about the next step? Have you recently lost something or someone important and are struggling to understand what comes next? Or maybe you're feeling a deep sense of restlessness, a pull towards something different, but aren't sure what that means yet? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Share them in the comments. If this video has resonated with you, if it has given you a new perspective or even just a moment of clarity, consider supporting this channel by liking this video and subscribing. These ideas from Stoic philosophy have helped countless people throughout history navigate the chaos of life with wisdom and strength, and I want to continue sharing them with as many people as possible. If you're interested in more discussions on Stoicism, resilience, and personal growth, be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Change is inevitable. How you respond to it is your choice. You have the power to shape your perspective, to turn obstacles into opportunities, and to meet every challenge with the mindset of a philosopher and a warrior. Stay strong and be stoic, always. Now, watch this powerful video to completely transform your life. Ready to take the next step towards a better life? Gain the knowledge and tools that will help you transform your life today. Thanks for watching, and remember to be stoic, always.